Hey Dotmar, how you doing, buddy? We'll kick off in like a minute. In a minute. It's gonna bother me if that's there. We'll restart. Maybe not. Oh sweet, 10 PM in Germany, 6 PM in Argentina. Yeah, sweet. Yeah, I think the AM is the way to go in Australia because time zones may never work, but if I get up early enough, we'll make it happen. Alright, we're gonna get cracking. So today is all about Mobjects and just really getting a feel for like the whole Manim structure itself. So, ooh, not that. We'll have a quick look at our learning goal before we kind of start here. We want to be able to understand how Mobjects are defined on Manim. So there's like a little background Cartesian plane, if you will, we are within scene, and I kind of just want you to get familiar with that so that you don't get frustrated having like circles half off the screen and all that kind of stuff. We want to be able to define Mobjects, which is like circles and rectangles and text and all that stuff, and then just create some basic stuff within the self-play window. That'd be good. And we also want to be able to navigate the Manim library. Okay, this is probably the most important part, because if you can read the library and know what else is there, you can get a little bit more creative with whatever you want to do with particular Mobjects, and especially in future tutorials, with what Grant has provided all of us. So without further ado, let's get back to coding. So I want you to just get your from Manim stuff, wherever you get your big pile of Manim resources from, and import numpy as np. Probably don't need it, but I hate getting stuck on PyMate, so I just import out of habit. Now, in order to create something within Manim, you've got to go class. I'm just going to call this elect1 live, because we're on the fly here, and scene, and then you've got to go def construct self, and that's really just got to do with how Python works and how it just reads through what it's got. I'm not a software engineer, I'm a teacher, so that sort of like really detailed stuff within like, hey, why do we need that line? I don't know, it just works. So we're going to create a Mobject, and I'm going to call it circle equals, and then capital. So this part here is equal to, I'll finish this off, circle. So you'll see here there's a couple of things I want to just point out. I can call this whatever I want. This is just creating something for Python to read. So I can call it K, and if I say K within Python, it's just referring to the circle Mobject. Now if you want to go, what is the circle Mobject within Manim? Now this is why it's nice to have like some kind of a coding reader within. If you just hold control and click circle, it'll take you to the Manim library where the circle is. And so if you read it, you can have a look. Well, it inherits from the arc class, which is cool. You can, and then init, which is like initializing that stuff. There's like colors, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm probably not going to mess with. But yeah, it inherits from arc, and then there's also some other stuff that we can do with Mobjects, which I'll show you in a moment. Yes, let's say, and I'm not going to call this K, I'm going to call it circ, just so I don't get confused here, and I'm going to just see what this looks like. So I'm going to say self-play, show creation, so I just want the circle to create itself, and circ, and make sure you've got your parentheses there, and then I'm just going to self-wait, and we'll see what that looks like. So you go and run it, so you Manim, and then you've got your elect1 live, and then we've got elect1 live .pm, P for play, M for medium quality, and it'll pop up, and we've just got a circle there. Now that's kind of boring, and we can see it's positioned in the origin automatically. So there's a couple of things before we really get cracking, there's a few just fundamental things we've got to get down. So if I go back to my OneNote, and we'll go to the Manim screen. So this is how the Manim screen is defined on this Cartesian plane here. So if we whip it over, what I've got here is I've got a circle. Let me pick a brighter color. Bugger off. Kind of like that. Now that's terrible. Kind of like that. That's no better, but we get the point. Now, if I want to move this around the screen on Manim, let's say I don't want my circle to be there. I want it to be somewhere like over here. So we can see that the origin of the circle is positioned. It's automatically positioned at the origin. But what if I want it over here? Alright, what I would do is I would use a thing called shift on the Mobject, and I'd want to shift it to the left because this is going to the left, and then there's the amount of units you want to shift it by. Here we can see that we want to shift it over by, if this can cooperate, thanks, by 3 units there. Now if you decided to shift it by like 10, it would just fly off the screen and you wouldn't even see the Mobject. So we'll have a play around with that just for a quick second, just so you can understand how the behind the scenes Cartesian plane is working within Manim. Because if you can understand that, it really is going to save you a lot of time. So if I want to shift this, I just go dot shift and I can go left times 3. So that should shift it like halfway over. And then we're going to see what that looks like. So if I go copy, paste it in there, run that. And there. So it's sort of like as we expected over there. Now if we went shift times 10, if you're like, oh, I want it to be shifted like a lot, over to the screen a lot. And then you're like, oh, well, 10 seems like a fair number, given you don't know any of the coordinate systems, and you run it, and you'll get kind of annoyed because you're like, where the hell's my circle? And the reason why it's not there is because it's off the screen. So like as far over as you probably should go is maybe like 5 or 6, 7 will be the very edge. So if we're going over by 5, it should be like, yeah, just about in the corner there. Okay, and as we should expect, if we just quickly take another look back at this here, as we should expect, 5 is like there, and 10 would be way off the screen, and that is not what we want. So that, again, that's like stuff we just want to keep in the back of our mind when we're doing this stuff. So now, let's try and customize this circle a little bit. So I'm going to actually just keep it shifted to the left times 3. And I'm going to customize this a little bit. So let's say you want a circle, you don't want the outline to be red because that's kind of disgusting. Let's say we want to change that stroke color. So I can go and I can put stroke color is equal to yellow. Okay, now just to illustrate this here, if you control click on stroke color, mine's going to be really slow here because I'm getting my computer to do a lot of things, but it's going to take you to like some vectorized Mobject page within the Manim library, and that's going to show you a lot of stuff that you can like change and customize on Mobjects. So it kind of looks like mine's not going to do it right now. It's even slow if there's nothing there. Okay, that's cool. So I'll just leave that as is. I'll just show you a couple. So if you go yellow underscore, you'll see this 5 different shades. A is the lightest and E is the darkest. I'm going to go D for obvious reasons. And I'm going to change my fill color. Again, that's another thing which is a customizable part of your Mobject, which will just, instead of making the inside blank, let's make it blue, but a nice light blue. So like blue B. And then I will take the radius and we'll make it 2, so we'll make it bigger. And I'll just put an enter there so I don't have a whole bunch of stuff flying off the screen. And let's say I want to change the stroke width. So I want my my yellow outside part to be real thick, let's say 5. And then I want the opacity of the middle to not be 100%, let's say 0.8. So what I'm telling Manim to do here is, okay, there's a thing called circ, and I want that to be a circle that has a stroke color of yellow. It's filled with blue. It's got a radius of 2. The stroke width is 5, so it's thick, and the fill opacity is 0.8. It's like it's not 100% blue. It'll be kind of like a little bit light there, and shift it to the left times 3. And then here I'm going self play show creation of circ. Alright, and so we'll see what that looks like there. And woohoo, we have a nice circle there. And so maybe you're like, oh, that looks better. Or you might say, I don't like yellow and blue, I'm going to use a different combination of colors. Go for it. Alright, just to illustrate here, if you make this K, like if you want to call it K, you can call it whatever you want, it doesn't matter. But if you're going to run this stuff within self-play, you've got to tell it to show creation of K, because that's what you've assigned this object, this Mobject, to be. Which is, you really got to understand that. Otherwise, you're just going to run into a million errors. So I'm just going to keep it as circ and change it up here as a circ. And make sure you're saving as you're going. Now, another way of shifting it is you can manually shift it around the screen. But if you want it to just be neatly aligned, you can use to edge. That's one thing, and you can go up. So you can put it to the top of the screen. You can put it to the left of the screen. You can put it to a corner by saying up left. And so that will put this circle to the top left of the screen. And so we'll go ahead and and instead of, maybe I don't want show creation, there's a few others you can use. So I'm going to go draw border, then fill. Okay. Again, if you want to see the different creations, just control and click it, and it'll take you to this creation page, which is, again, this is just being able to read the Manim library. So draw border, then fill. What's it going to do? Looks too confusing for me to check out, so I'd rather just see what it looks like. But as its name suggests, it's going to draw the border of the object, and then it's going to fill the inside stuff. So we'll see what that looks like. Cool, as we expected. Very nice. So that's kind of cool. Now let's see if we can create something else. So that's a Mobject. Let's say if I want to create some text here. So I want to create an equation, and I'm going to say it's equal to text Mobject. And here you want to put in some latex. I'm not going to teach you how to write in latex. But let's say I just want to write the equation of the circle. So it's x squared plus y squared is equal to 2 squared. Squared. So here I've created an equation, and let's say I want to move this equation around a little bit, or let's say I want to put it next to the circle, for example. So I go equation dot next to. Alright, alternatively, you can just go dot next to here. Either way works, but maybe just for the purposes of it, we'll just go dot next to, and then we'll go, I want to put it next to the circle down with a buff of 0.5. And you can do a few other things, like you can say there's an aligned edge, and let's say you want to keep it to the left of the circle, but probably not necessary for now. If you don't put any buff here, it automatically goes to 0.25, but I'm going to keep mine at 0.5. Just to illustrate here, what this is going to look like is, where's my pen? If we go to the Manim screen, this is what we're telling the thing to do. We're saying, hey, get a circle, put it with a radius of 2 in the top left, so it'll be up there, and then I'm saying create an equation that has a buff of 0.5, so that's like a half a unit, and it's going to say x squared plus y squared is equal to 2 squared, and that's what I'm telling it to do. If I had a buff of 0.25, there would be a smaller gap. If I had a buff of 0.2, it would put it like all the way down there or something like that. So that buff just tells you how far away it's going to be from the Mobject or from whatever you're putting it next to. Alright, so let's see if we can go ahead and run that. Oh, hang on, before we do that, just because I've defined it here, I've got to put it within the self-play window. So let's, so I'm going to self-play, and I'm going to write this equation. And let's say I want it to have a nice runtime of 2. So I want it to be nice and slow, give it a cool effect. Then after that, I'm just going to go self.wait. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, cool. So it shows a circle, fills it in, x squared plus y squared is 2 squared. That took 2 seconds to write that. And we're good to go. And we can see it's aligned to the left of the circle. So it's perfectly aligned, which is nice. So that's another nice little part if you want your animations to be really neat. Let's add some more stuff here. So let's say I want to add some text instead of latex. So I'm going to say text is equal to text Mobject. Now I believe in the Manim version, the community version, there's like math text and just text. I'll put something in the Discord for that. There was their last tutorial. Again, it's something that is new to me, so I'm gonna have to work with it. But tech and text work the same. So let's say I want to write something like Mr. Amity tutorials, but I want to customize each part of it. So if I just say Mr. Amity tutorials, but I want this Amity part to be a different color, and then I want to underline, let's say I want to underline this here. If I just create it as one thing and I go to manipulate it at all, it's just gonna, any manipulation is gonna do it to the whole thing. So if you want to chunk it up, if you've got a little bit of computer science background, you'll know there's things called arrays. So I can make this, and I've kept a space in here because I don't want the Mr. Amity tutorial stuff to be directly next to each other. So here I'm saying I've got a text object where the 0th element of text is going to be Mr. The first element is going to be Amity, and the second element is going to be tutorials, and let's throw an exclamation mark at the end of it. Now let's say we want to do some stuff to this. So let's go text, and in bracket 0. So this is allowing me to refer to just the Mr. part. And if I want to set this color, let's say I want to set it equal to blue. So I'll do that there. And let's say I want to set the Amity part to green. So set color to green. And then I want the tutorials part to be, I don't know, pink or something like that. Oops, set color to pink. Okay, very cool. And if I also want to add an underline here, I can go under for underline, and there's a Mobject called underline. So this is why it's nice to have this Code Studio business in here as well. You just go underline and then text and the second element of it. So it's just going to create an underline for text. And let's go, you see this Mobject and you're like, hey, what's it about? Control click it. Wait for your Code Studio to pop it up, and you can read through it. So it inherits from the line class, and it's going to match the width of whatever Mobject you're going to, and it's going to go from the left to the right. So it's as an underline should. And so thanks Grant for doing that. So we can create an underline. Now if we just leave this as is, this text is going to be automatically placed in the middle of the screen, which is not really ideal. So let's go text next to, and I'm going to put it next to the circle, but I'm going to put it to the right instead of down. I'm going to have a buff of 1 right there. Okay, and let's say I also want to add my favorite number to this. So I'm going to say num is equal to text Mobject, and my favorite number is the natural log of 2 to 2 decimal places, which is 0.69. Now, this is where at the very top here, I've said scale Mobjects first, then reposition it. And so we're going to have a look at why that's important. So I'm going to go scale 2, and then I'm going to put it next to, and I'm going to put it next to the text, but down. And I'm going to say there's a buff of 1. So I want there to be a bit of a gap in there. So I'm scaling it, then I'm repositioning it. And I'm going to show you what happens if you don't do that. So now we've created all of this stuff in here. So we've created our text, underline, and number. And let's say we want to add some of it simultaneously. So if we go self-play, what you can do here is you can go, you can write the whole text. Additionally, you could just say write text 1, so that would, I'm telling Manim to just say, hey, write the Amity part of this, but I don't really want to do that. I just want to write the whole text. The reason why I broke this up into arrays is so I could customize it a little bit, and I also want to show the creation of the underline at the same time. So I can just put a comma there and say show creation of under, because that's what I called my underline there. And let's say you want a nice runtime, let's say a runtime of 2. Don't put a bracket there. Runtime is equal to 2. And then let's go self-wait. And then I'm going to self-play. And I'm going to fade in my favorite number. And I'm going to self-wait. So this is, I've used everything I've been able to define here so far. And let's see what that looks like. Alright, so I've got our circle in the up left corner, that position down, align to the left. Mr. Amity Tutorials. What have we spotted? The underline is not behaving as we want it to, which is kind of weird. Okay. Good point, and I know exactly why it's done this. Because I've created the underline, and then I've moved my text. So this is great. This is a good point. So if I'm going to create this underline, the underline is, you've created this text object, it's in the middle of the screen, and then I've put the underline in the middle of the screen, and then I've moved the text. I haven't moved the underlines, so that was silly. So let's just move the text first. So I'm moving the text, and then I'm creating the underline to say put it under the text. So now this is going to read through it. It's going to say create the text, move it, and then create the underline. Whereas before I had create the underline and then move it, and so no wonder, as it should have done the wrong thing. Now I just want to deliberately show you an error here, just because getting errors in this terminal is pretty common. So let's say you said you put it next to text instead of text. Now this is how little the error, a little error in your code can give you an error here. So you go bang, it's not going to work, and then you just read through whatever your error was. So you say, okay, where has it happened here? And it goes bang, there's a problem, it's not being able to match this part of the library. So it goes in your file that you're editing here in line 23, so I go up to line 23, that's when I changed, and it says in construct, you're saying put it next to this, so this is the line of your code, that is the line of code, number 23, and it says text is not defined, and you're like, typo, text, and then you do that there, and you fix it up. Okay, so that should pop out, and so the underline should be fine now, as it should be. Right. Now, this is nicely positioned here. This is one of the last things I want to go through, which is, what if you scaled after you reposition? So you're going to put it next to this object, and then you're going to scale it times 2. So you save that, and let's see what that looks like. And you think, oh, it might look the same. Well, it's not. And there's fair reasoning for it. So you skip through it. Okay, so maybe actually let me change this buff to 0.1 so you can see here. That was a poor example. So let's go dot scale it, times it by 2. Cool. Alright, so we go to the end here, and we can see that there's a little bit of a gap. So we've scaled it and then moved it. If we move it and then scale it, it's not going to be positioned in the same spot that it is, and you'll see why. Alright, so again we go through the end here. It's got an overlap, right? Now this should make sense, because what we're telling Manim to do here is we're saying dot next to, so put it next to the Mobject. So it's going to take the size it was originally, which was a size of 1, or scaled, not having any scale factor to it, put it under it with the tiniest little gap, and then make it bigger, which is not what you want it to do. You want to go, hey Manim, scale the Mobject times 2. So it goes, okay, I'm in the middle of the screen, I'm going to go bigger, and then I'm going to shift it to wherever it needs to be. So that's just like it's a rookie suggestion here, and it took me longer than it should have to figure out why the heck I was getting really frustrated with it, and that was why. And so it kind of seems obvious, but anyway. So we can do some of that stuff. Now let's say we want to move some of this in the process here. So let's say we've got all this stuff defined. Now I want to make my circle move somewhere in the screen. So what I can do is I can go circ.animate. And so what you're telling the play window to do here is you're saying, here's a circle, and I'm going to animate it on the screen a little bit in some way, and I'm going to animate it, I'm going to make it shift to the right times 3. And I want the runtime to be 4 so we can really see what's going on there, and I'm going to go self.wait there. Okay, so what's happening here is the whole animation should stay the same, but I'm telling the circle to shift to the right in the place. So rather than just creating itself to the right, I want it to be created and then move. So we'll do that here. A whole bunch of stuff should pop up. And then I'm saying circle, shift to the right, and so the circle will move. So if you want stuff to move around on the screen, you've got to use this little animate key here. So I'm gonna get rid of some of the rubbish here. And so let's say I want to draw this circle, I want to move it around, and then I want to write the equation. And then I'm gonna wait for a second, and then I want the equation to go directly under the circle now. So it's not going to be under the circle if I shift it. So I'm going to go equation dot animate next to circ down runtime equal to 3. And I'm going to go self.wait there, and we're going to see what that looks like. So here, circle moves, and I'm going to write that. It was under it, but now we're going to make it move under there. So we can do some of that stuff there. And there's one last thing I want to do. Let's say I want the circle. So I haven't used this number yet. Like I got rid of it. So within this new animation, I've still got this number here. Let's say I want my circle to transform into the number. There is a transform, I guess, play thingo, where you can go circle into number, and we'll make that runtime something like 2 or something like that. And I'm going to go self.wait. So really what I'm telling my animation to do here is now take the circle and change it into the natural log of 2. And so let's see what that's going to look like there. So as it should, circle's going to move. The text is going to pop up there, and then it's going to go back under the circle. And then I'm telling the circle to transform into the natural log of 2, which is positioned where it should be, how I have to find it. Okay, so that's all I'm going to go over. Here, I want you guys to do something now. So if we go into here, I want you to try and create this here. So if you jump into the chat, and we can go, here's your activity 1. So what I want you to do is create a rectangle position in the top right corner of the screen, so a rectangle. You've got to customize it in some way. Animate the rectangle so it's moving down the screen, and simultaneously write, "This is mad broskies," position it wherever you want. So that's what I want you to create. Once you've done it, I want you to pop it up within this chat here, within the Discord, so in the classroom text. Okay, now just as a little prompt, if you're like, hang on, you haven't shown me how to do rectangle, if we can go out of this, within the geometry part of the Manim library, if we search for rectangle, we will find it. So rectangle is something you can call, just like a circle. And so it's got a height, it's got a width, and all that stuff. So you can customize that how you like. You can also do the same thing with like your stroke color, and your fill opacity and all that stuff as well. Just like you can change all of this within the rectangle. Alright, so I'm going to leave that up, and once you've done it, drop it in the chat so I can have a look. Why is that being a piece of shit? Okay, whatever. Alright, and if you've got any questions, please put them in like the stream chat or the Discord chat, and I'll try and answer them as you're working through it. Oh yes, the code. The code. Animate has no attribute. Yeah, I mean it should if you're using the community edition. That was one of the that was one of the new changes. But I'm pretty sure if you just use this, try this one here. So if you go circ, what is it? Circ.shift right times 3. See if that works. That should, if you're using the old version of Manims, like the 3 blue 1 brown, or like whichever one, the non-community version, this should be the line of code instead of like .animate .next to. So give that a shot. Hopefully that works. I'd give yourself a bit of time to install Manim Community, because the thing with Manim is that it's more impressive to install it than use it. So, like Will said, give yourself a lot of time. What else we got in here? Yeah, the time zones is really screwing everyone over. Sorry, I live in Brisbane. My apologies. We're literally on different days. Yeah, nice, Raldo. Are you able to put, rather than your code, can you put like the animation in? So if you go to like the plus symbol here and you find where it is, you should just be able to drop in anything. So if I dropped in like I don't know, like yeah, you can just put in a video file in there rather than your code, just so we can see what it looks like. You should be able to dodge the apply method within. Let's have a look at that. Nice. Rain, see if you can get it looks like you've just added the text there. See if you can write it at the same time. But that's pretty sweet. That's cool. Let's have a look at what we've got here. Yeah, nice. Raldo, looks like, let me have a look at your code. Yeah, so see how you've got text? Use text Mobjects. So chuck a T in here, because you've got this mad brosies, it's not putting any spaces in between, and that's because it's reading it like it's an equation. So change it to, so use text text Mobject rather than text Mobject for words. Nice, do that. Yeah, sweet. Good stuff. Awesome. Yeah, sweet. That's better, man. Nice. Okay, and I'm going to also, I'm just going to put my code in there for this activity. Whoop, not activity 2, activity 1. Not cheat just yet. So you can customize it however you like. And let's slap that in here. Okay, so if we have a look at that, I'll run mine. Whoop, don't exit out of that. Alright, so that's the dribble we've gone through. Alright, so what I've done with mine, let's enter down and let's get rid of that. So for mine, I'm going, okay, I want to create a rectangle, I want to make it blue, I'm going to fill it to 70% with purple. That's probably going to look disgusting, but I don't really care. Scale it, and then move it to the edge. So I just wanted to make mine bigger. I could have changed length and width, but if you scale it, it doesn't, you know, regardless. Then I've created text, which is text Mobject. It's Mad Broskies. I've made it pink, I've scaled it up a bit, and then I've moved it. And then I've added an underline because why not? And then I'm going to run it. Activity 1. And it should work. It works. Create it. Pretty disgusting looking, yeah. But we get it to play at the same time. Cool. Alright, so I'll give you, if there's people still working on it, maybe like another 2 minutes. I'm gonna turn this coding jam down a little bit, right back down. 15, okay. So it's subtle. Okay, so that first activity was supposed to be a smidge easy. Just getting used to, I guess, maneuvering stuff within Manim. Now I've got a second activity here. This one will be a little bit harder. So I'm gonna slap this one in here. And now I'll give you guys like 10 minutes or something to work on this, and I'm gonna put my code up for it in about 5 minutes. I just want you to give it a crack. So create a dashed line. This one again, it's a new, like I haven't showed you how to use a dashed line, but if you go to your Manim library, it's a Mobject, okay, or if you just go within to your coding and type in something like line is equal to dashed line, and you'll see it pop up and you go, okay, what the heck is it? You can control click it and it'll show you what it is. Okay, and it inherits from line, so you go up to line, like what does line do? And it goes, okay, well it's going to start to the left and to the right, so you should be wanting to reconfigure that a little bit, because I want you to create it in the middle of the screen that goes from one side of the screen to the other side of the screen. So I want it to, like, it should be a line cutting through the entire screen. Then write your favorite number in the bottom left of the screen while simultaneously transforming the dash line into the phrase, "This number is too good, mate." And the word number within your phrase, this number here, it must be underlined in a different color. And once you finish that, you can throw that up. So there's a little bit more going on there. And it might be also useful to remember, how is this Manim screen configured altogether. Alright, so if you just use line and it says left to right, it's going to give you a dashed line that sort of looks like this. But I want you to have a dashed line that goes from all the way to here to all the way to there. So you might think, okay, how am I going to recreate that? And it'll be like a dashed line, like that instead. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So like 10 a.m. GMT, and the second one is 10 p.m. GMT. No, it's so, okay. No. How to change one edge to the other. Okay, so you can go to edge, and so there's a couple options. Up left, actually, up left is equal to up and left. Okay, there's also up right, which is equal to up plus right. So those are just putting them to the corners of the screen, or to the edges of the screen. Wait, the plus 10 PST? What the hell is PST? The whole plus 10 GMT business, it's just got to do with time zones. So like, when we're reading the time, we just say, okay, we're going to assume we're in UK time. And Brisbane is 10 hours ahead of UK time. So if we say it's 7 a.m, I say I am going to be in 7 p.m, which is the plus 10 GMT time zone. So like, you can kind of think, oh, what time zone am I? So if you're like, I don't know, if your time zone is like -1, you go, oh, well, then I'm 11 hours behind whatever this bloke is behind. And like, the stock standard is just the UK time, because that's right on the, what do they call it, the time zone meridian or some crap. I should really just, yeah, fuck. clock and time zone. So with the dash line here, if you're sending it from one edge to the other edge, I'm pretty much saying, let me kind of rewrite this a little bit. So I'm saying line is equal to dashed line, and really what I'm saying is I want the line to start left times 7, and then I want it to end at right times 7. And if we go back to our Manim screen, that's saying, alright, well, we're going to start at left times 7, which is right here. And then I want it to end at right times 7, which is right there. And so that's how I'm creating my dash line from one edge to the other edge. Can't find out what the dash arguments dash line have. If you just, I mean, yeah, like depending on how slow it is, if you just go to dash line, you hold control and right and left click it, sorry, it'll tell you like, well, like dash line doesn't really have any nice arguments if you just read dash line. But it inherits from line. So whatever the arguments are within line, that's what dash line is using. So I'll go, oh, hang on, it's inheriting from line. Well, let's go have a look at line. And then line is right there, and that inherits from typical vector Mobject, okay, whatever that is. If I need to refer to it, I will. But here I can see there's a start, which is left, and then there's an end, which is right. So if we go back to our little Manim thing here, that's the one in purple. It's starting here if you don't do anything to it, and it'll end there, which is like left then right. But what I've done is I've said let's start here and end there, which is times 7 times 7. Nice. I rate that. Sweet. Short, concise, awesome work. I froth it. Dude, that was pretty quick. Do you want to drop your code in the chat, Jaylee? What the hell? Oh, hang on. Change that first line to this. Okay, yeah, good point. Chromatic range. So the code for this one, because it would have taken a little while, and I'll actually even run it within mine here. It will take a little while to run because like you won't normally transform a Mobject into a, what have I done? Like a line into text. So like behind the scenes, there's a lot going on there. And that, as it should, take a little while to render. leg 1 activity 2. So like this will take a little while to render here. And it's because we're doing a stupid transformation. But I'm just trying to teach you, you know, a couple of things that you can do within it. Yeah, so you notice like mine is still, yeah, there you go. So that took a while to render. Okay, and it's because typically you won't be doing that. But anyway, and there's my number down there. Yeah, that's a good point too. There's also the quality that you're rendering. PQL. Wait, isn't QL? Try doing PL. Try doing PL. That'll be low quality. I've never used this. I've never used that low dash low quality after it. Ever. This to me is like your quality playing here. So yeah, so I just say let me edit that. Just say. So just try using this. Go Manim, and then what is yours? Leg 1 live dot. I'll use my capitals. Try that instead. It should work the same. You don't have to put that low quality after it. Did you change it to this, Jaylee? You're still dropping letters. What the hell? No, you did too. Dunno, to be honest. Maybe give us a message in like 10 minutes after this, and I'll see if I can help you out in like, we can just trial and error some stuff. Yeah, nice, Raldo. See if you can add a underline to that number, but that's pretty much you bang on it there. Sweet. Alright, so just to wrap up here, so that's pretty much it. Like, this was supposed to be a more easygoing one, just to kind of build us into it. We'll just refer back to the learning goal here. So hopefully we're able to understand the foundation which scene Mobjects are defined on, which is this Manim screen here. So I'll clear that. So everything you define as a Mobject will be defined on this here. Okay. And hopefully we're able to define some objects, like we use dash line, a rectangle, and some other stuff, and being able to navigate the Manim library. The last thing I want to finish up on here is being able to, like, if you've got something in mind that you want to do as an animation, you can pre-plan it. So this is what I'll do. Like, for example, if I want to explain the relationship between a probability density function and a cumulative density function, so like that's what I'm going to be doing with some of my kids for work. So I give myself little notes. I'm like, okay, well, this is just the fundamental theorem of calculus. I'm going to use the get graph method and the plain get graph, and we'll look at that when we're in our next lecture, which is on graphing. And so I'll go, okay, I'll like run through it. So I know how my numbers work. I know what I want my screen to look like. So I'll just do a bit of math in the process there, and then I'll plan out my animation. So here I will have the screen, have the Manim screen within OneNote, and I'll just ink over it to plan stuff. So I'll ink over that, and I'll just draw it out, and I'll just make sure that everything's positioned where I want it to. So like when I'm doing this axis here, that axis there, what I'll do is I'll make sure that the origin is positioned left 6 and up 1. Okay, and I want to do that so if I don't, like otherwise my axis could be could be here, for example, and that's just going to mess everything up. So I don't want to do that. So it's kind of important to, if you've got some sort of an animation in mind that you want to make, you want to pre-plan it nicely. And I found this screen has just saved me a ton of time when you get a little bit more familiar with like how the Mobjects and everything are being defined within Manim. That way you can just go ahead, plug the code, and you don't have to trial and error shifting stuff around the screen. You just know, okay, this Mobject I've got here, I want it to be to the right 5 and down 1. Or maybe you want it to be directly underneath this, aligned to the left, or something like that. Okay, but other than that, that's pretty much everything I wanted to go over. So next lecture, we're going on 2D graphs, and so we'll just have a look at the learning goal. Alright, we're gonna get familiar with graph scene, look at stuff like secant slope group and get graph, and we're also going to look at like axis and number plane and just create some basic 2D customizable graphs, so it'll get a little bit more interesting. Anyway, very nice. Was that mine? It was. Okay, cool. Well, if you're running into any problems, just give us a message. But otherwise, good luck.